Guys, hello, welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer. And yes, there are two people that do work on this YouTube channel. I've been missing, I've been MIA over the last, I was going to say a few weeks, Scott, but could it be a month?
Probably a
I've been
couple of
lazy,
months
haven't
if
I?
I'm being really harsh. But yeah, there
Yeah,
was two of
fair
us.
enough.
We're doing a video together as well, which I think some of the our subscribers from back in the day, should I say, will be glad to
Yeah.
see.
People who have subscribed recently are probably thinking, who the fuck is that? Like, who is this
Yeah.
guy? But no, there are two of us. There are two of us. Guys, we're going to do a video on the relegation battle because, in my opinion, I think this could be the tightest one in years. And we're looking at the table now and we're debating, Scott, whether we should start at Palace in 12th as a potential chance of going down or
Yeah.
maybe even one space higher. It's that tight. And obviously, the weekend results just gone. Three of the bottom four won. It's just incredible. And we'll dive into it. And I think we should start with Palace. And I'll throw it over to you, Scott, because you wanted to mention them just because of their recent form.
Yeah, they haven't really pulled off, a really good run of form. I think a lot of their points did come
No.
from more towards the start of the season. And the thing I love dash hate about this relegation battle, because we obviously support one of the teams in this relegation battle, is anytime any team thinks they're getting away, it's just a rope pulling them back in. Like, I don't know
Jack
where
back
you
in.
guys think you're going, but you'll win this battle. Palace, for me, I feel like they should have too much, but it's just one of those where I wanted to give them a little mention because looking at their recent form, it isn't fantastic, but I think one thing they are picking up, obviously, is a lot of draws, which should be enough to see
They
them over
are.
the line.
4 draws in the last 5 games. They've drawn 9 games this season. I mean, I think they've lost, if I'm not mistaken, 11 games or something like that. There's teams fighting for the top four that have lost more games. But yeah, I think Palace will be fine. So Palace fans, do not worry. We're getting you out of the way at the very beginning. I think that you're safe. They've got so much quality going forward. Scott, let's talk about Nottingham Forest in 13th. Now, Forest are on 25 points. West Ham are on 20 points. So 5 points clear. Yes, that massive draw at the weekend against Man City. And they've taken a few scalps this season, of course. They beat Liverpool famously early on in the season. 3 wins in their last 5. The reason why I think we should include Forest in this, guys, is that part of the video. If you are enjoying it, do us a favour, hit that like button and subscribe.
And now let's get back to the video.
This is because yes, they've got a big squad after all their spending, but they do also have a lot of injuries, which I know you want to
Yeah.
mention as well, especially in defence. But for me, also, they haven't got the Premier League experience of other teams. Maybe that run in around April, May when it gets really nervous. And Forest are one of those teams. They can quite easily lose 3 in a row, and then they're right in it again. That's the thing about this season. I don't think they're as safe as people think.
I don't think they're fully over the line at all. I do think, though, and I will say this, at my start of season predictions, if people go back and watch it, they'll probably find it. I did say Forest will have a defining moment in the season. I said they'll probably be near the bottom come Christmas as well because of all the embedding all the new players. And I said they'll have a defining moment, and there'll be a moment in the season where Steve Cooper is under a lot of pressure and the owners either have to back him or they have to get rid of him. And a few months ago, that happened. And I said, if they stick with him, they will stay
Yeah,
up because I am a
you did.
massive fan of Steve Cooper. And I think he's going to be the reason where I think Forest will just have enough. But I agree with you. If Forest go down, and I think there's going to be circumstances for me for the 3 teams that go down, I think
Yeah.
it's going to be the ones that have the ropiest ride because I think all teams in this relegation battle have enough to stay up. It could be because of Forest injuries. We do know they're very light when it comes to centre backs, but of course they didn't show any signs of that being a major problem yesterday, did they? Obviously getting a
No,
fantastic
they
result.
didn't. No, I agree. And I think at this point in the season, with 23 games in, obviously the halfway point is 19. So most teams have still got to play a lot of the teams at the bottom and a lot of
Yeah.
the teams at the top. If we were doing this video the last week of March, I think we'd be talking a lot more about the remaining fixtures. You know, has a team got to play Man City, Liverpool, United, Chelsea in their last, well, maybe not Chelsea this season. You want to play Chelsea. But you know what I mean? Like you'll be looking at fixtures, but because we're only just after halfway, we don't have to look at fixtures. I've got a funny feeling Forest might just do it. I've just got a funny feeling about it. I think sticking with Cooper could be that defining moment that you
Yeah.
mentioned, and back him or sack him. They've backed him, and I think it might work out for them. Let's move on to a team that I really didn't think, even after their start to the season, I really didn't think they'd be in this video. But Leicester, Scott, Leicester have scored 36 goals this season. We've played 23 games. They've scored 36 goals. Newcastle haven't scored that many. Fulham haven't scored that many. And Fulham are fighting for the top four. It's criminal, but the goals that they concede, yes, they've had injuries. Again, with Rodgers, that third, fourth season syndrome, very similar to Mourinho, his mentor. Um, I feel like there's more reason to talk about Palace going down than Leicester. And Palace fans may take a bit of an offence to that. But because it's Leicester, look at the quality they've got still. I think they'll be okay.
It was an interesting one because obviously at the time of recording, we're yet to see if they get anything against United. So they might have
True.
scored more goals and they could actually
True.
if they did get the win, they'd actually go above Palace as well. So that would kind of
Yes,
help us out. But
they would.
yeah, I think with Leicester, I think the difference for them is going to be the fact of what you mentioned, 36 goals at the time of recording. They might get another
They
one or
score
two today.
goals, and that keeps you in the league. You can score
Yeah.
goals. That's it. That's
I,
all it
I
is,
think when
really.
you look at like the other teams further on below, which we're going to speak about, a lot of their issues has been scoring goals, and I do feel that that's going to be the difference maker.
Well, let's come on to one of them, and that is our club, who are the joint lowest scorers in the league with
Yeah,
Everton, and that is Wolves. Scott, 17 goals in 23 games. And we've actually scored quite a few goals in our last 3 or 4 games. We put 3 past Liverpool. We could literally be sitting here having scored 13 goals in 23 games, but Lopetegui's worked his magic a little bit. Scott, I don't want to talk about one individual performance too much, but if there was ever a game that was going to sum up Wolves, not just this season and last season when we struggled, but our Premier League tenure, it's goals. Even when we did back-to-back sevenths, the FA Cup semi-final, Europa League quarter-final, our defence got us there. We weren't scoring goals. If you remember, outside of Jota and Jimenez, where were the goals coming
yeah.
from? That game against Bournemouth yesterday, haven't seen us batter a team in the first half like that in a long time. When it went to half time 0-0, I text my friend and said, "We'll lose this," because it was just the writing on the wall. You could just tell we were not going to put the ball in the back of the net.
And it felt like one of those games. And I think one thing you would say with a lot of these teams we're going to cover, we're probably going to say that their home form's really going to matter. I'd flip that with Wolves.
Absolutely.
I think it's going to be the away
Well,
form because I think we're too easy to play against when it comes to home. Because I think a lot of teams, obviously the ones right at the top, they're not going to come and think we're accept taking a draw against Wolves. But a lot of teams, it's easy when they come to play Wolves at home because all they have to do is they just have to sit back, hit us on the
yeah,
counter because we have got a mistake in our defence. Obviously, as we saw
yeah,
yesterday with Bournemouth, it was a good goal. Don't get me wrong, but it did come from a defensive mistake. And if
it
you're
did.
playing Wolves at home, you just go, okay, we'll just sit back, we'll frustrate them, we'll hit them on the counter. If we
Ride
draw,
the storm.
it's still a good result. And if not,
Yeah,
we'll get the win. I think Wolves'
yeah.
main issue is going to be scoring goals. And that's the reason why I would have loved to have said that we're out of it. And if we got a result against Bournemouth, I would have probably said, I feel
Honestly,
great.
if we'd have won yesterday, I'd have been doing this video, and instead of starting with Palace, we'd have started with Wolves and said, "I think we'll be fine now. We
Yeah.
need 3 wins, a couple of draws." That's how tight it is. I genuinely, because if we'd have won yesterday, that's 4 wins out of 5. You're not going down with form of 4 wins out of
No.
5 in the Premier League. But again, we dragged back in it, and because other teams won around us, we'll come on to them next. We are in it now, sadly, still. Everton, and what an appointment. And it's just vindication for Sean Dyche, not to offend any Everton fans, and I hope you take this as a compliment. I think every neutral fan in the league in England wants to see Sean Dyche at the top level or higher. Look at Eddie Howe. Look at what he's managed to do. We want to see those English, like the Sam Allardyce never quite got that role. Well, with England he did, but he fucked that up. But
Yeah,
you
he
want
did.
to, we want to see Sean Dyche doing what we think he can do with maybe a team in that top 7, top 8. Because when he got appointed, I said it, they're safe. Everton are safe. That's it. They'll pick up another 4 or 5 1-0 wins until the end of the season, and they'll get another 2 or 3 draws. I think they'll be fine. I'm more confident in Everton staying up than teams that have got 5 more points than them now.
I think you're slightly more confident than me, but I do think Dyche is going to be the
Really,
factor that will keep them or
I think
could
they're
keep
fine.
them up. One thing I would say though is the fact that they are at the moment anyway having to pull off, getting those 1-0 wins, and I just worry if the defense, if it doesn't keep that stability, then it could become a problem. I think the one
But
thing
look
that
at the defenders: Tarkovsky, Cody,
yeah,
Mina, Godfrey. They've got that. Sean Dyche would have looked at that when he went into that dressing room and thought, "Bloody hell, lads! How are
that'll
you
do me.
conceding all the? How do you know what I mean? Look at what he's had in the past." I think he would have walked in there and said, "Right, if we can score 20 goals between now and the end of the season, we'll stay up." And I think they'll do that. But he's got some very, very decent centre backs there. He really has.
But I think you have to say, if Everton do go down, if they are one of the 3 teams to go down, it won't be because of Dyche. It'll be because of
No,
Mashuri.
no, no.
I mean,
He's the reason
the
that
one
they've
thing
got a chance.
the one thing that concerns me is the fact that we're talking about Everton being one of the only clubs not to sign anyone. And it's not like the other clubs around them did absolutely nothing. Saints probably spent, I think, was it over 50 million? Bournemouth, I think they were near
Bournemouth did.
about the 100
They
million
were
mark.
over.
Wolves
Yep.
must have been around the 60, 70 million mark. So, and Everton, all they did actually was sell Anthony Gordon, who I think, by the way, was good to get rid of because of his whole attitude. It stunk. But
Stunk. But you are right.
and
They
there
were
was a
the
little,
only team. They didn't sign anyone. Not a
yeah.
single player. Not
And
not even a loan.
I just worry 1 or 2 injuries, could that be a problem? But I do think maybe if they stay up, it's because of Dyche. If they go down, it's because of Mashuri. That's as simple as that for me.
I completely agree. I completely agree. But you've also got to think he's got the defenders, DCL and Morpie. They're hard. Morpie more so than DCL, but they're hard workers. And DCL's his kind of striker. That Sam Vokes, Chris Wood. He's that kind of big, strong, powerful guy.
Yeah.
They'll put balls into the box in him. I don't think he'll play many games, but he's his kind of striker. Scott, Bournemouth next. We have to talk about them. And Cherry fans, congratulations at the weekend. You weathered the storm. And I think it's fair to say we absolutely peppered you in the first half. We had our 7th corner before you had your first, but you got the result, and that's all that matters in the Premier League. It's their first win in the last 5. They've had 2 draws in that time as well, so it's not like they're getting peppered and pumped every single week. What do you make of Bournemouth, Scott? Because they sat back, and I think they're. What I saw yesterday from Bournemouth is not what I've seen all season from them. Are they starting to turn a corner and willing to play ugly football to stay up? Do you think it's just the new signings in January that will keep them up?
It's a hard one, and I think I don't know what to make of Bournemouth, and maybe some Bournemouth fans don't know what to make of Bournemouth at the moment, because I think you've
They've tried different. They've tried different things under Parker. Yeah. They've tried the expansive football. They've tried to play teams at their own game. Yesterday, perfect, pretty much.
One thing I really didn't like I say like, I absolutely hated it, but like looking back from putting my Bournemouth hat on, if I'm a Bournemouth fan, one thing I would have liked is the fact that they were just really street smart yesterday. They wound up the crowd, wound up me.
I was so annoyed.
So badly because they just wasted so much time, but at the same time, that's having that street smart.
Yeah, that's all it is. And they don't care about that. They've left Molyneux with 3 points. They're heading down south. Thanks very much. What can you do? Fair play to them.
And I think they make a good point. They have made a lot of new signings as well. It'll be interesting to see what they do. And I think the impact that those new signings have will ultimately decide what happens with Bournemouth. It's too hard to call at the moment because we don't know exactly what those new signings are going to do.
But what I would say is that they do have the worst defense in the league. They've conceded 44. And when you've got the worst defense in the league, you want to play a team like Wolves, who has the worst scoring in the league. And it worked out for them. So, Cherry fans, leave us alone. Don't rub it in too much. But congratulations. Scott, West Ham they're in the relegation zone. And it's not like it's November. It's not like even Christmas. We're in the middle of February. But a part of me still thinks it would be silly to talk about West Ham in a relegation battle. Look at the players. I mean, there's no point going through them all, but Skamaka, Royce, Souček, Antonio. I mean, is it worth even talking about them? Are they just going to be okay? They're going to pick up 5 wins, aren't they? 6 wins.
I think you've got to speak about them. Of course, they could be in a lot better point by the time this video reaches you guys after the, the Spurs game. I think that could go anyway, to be honest.
I agree. I agree.
James, we're more than halfway.
But do you know what I mean? Well, the logical guy of me is saying we have to talk about West Ham. They're in the relegation zone. We're in the middle of Feb. But
And
then
you could say this about every team,
that's
like
true.
West Ham, like you could say a team with Declan Rice can't go down. I'd probably say a team with James Maddison can't go down. A team with
Which,
Ruben Neves shouldn't go down.
yeah,
I could probably pick like all those people, like those players we're talking about. Yeah, I could probably
yeah,
pick out one from every club. Saints, you could say a team with Ward-Prowse probably shouldn't be going down because just his free kicks alone should keep them up.
alone,
West
alone.
Ham are just one of them. I think, they're a bit annoyed at how
It's
Moyes
West
is
Ham.
playing.
Back-to-back European campaigns, and now this.
Mm.
It's crazy, but we
But
have to
is that
talk
going to be
about
the
them.
downfall? Could that be the
Well,
downfall? They're still in Europe.
are they riding? Is it that thing of why Liverpool have struggled this season because they were so close to immortality last year? If they win that quadruple, game over.
That's
They
a
beat
good
the
shout.
treble. They've completed football once you've done the quadruple in England. They've gone from that to now this. I think it's just West Ham was so high for so long. It's just to keep those levels. I think it's hurt them.
Yeah,
Scott,
they're
let's
in the
talk.
top four race, weren't they? They're in the top four race. You had
Oh
the
yeah,
Europa League, the Conference League. They got really far in that. As you say, you just felt
yeah.
then the start this season not really on a high. You just wonder if that's a hard one to get
Deflated
out
them.
of mentality wise.
I agree. Let's come on to Leeds. And literally, guys, minutes, and I mean minutes before we started recording this, I wanted to check one thing, just exactly who was the latest odds on to take over Leeds. And surprise, surprise, to a man that we know very, very well, 3 minutes before we're about to go live, Leeds Live, I think it's called, Leeds fans, you'll know them better than we will. They posted a story, Scott, saying that talks have now opened with Nuno. Now, I'm not saying Nuno's taken over before you jump at me in the comments. It just said the Whites have open talks with Nuno. What that could be, I don't know. What do you make of that? Because they need a manager soon, don't they? They can't let this fester. It can't fester.
There's a few things that worry me about Leeds. I mean, firstly, you've sacked Jesse Marsh, and it doesn't look like they had a clear candidate in place. I think when you're
Well, if
midway,
you're looking at Nuno, sorry to cut you off. If you've sacked Mark, when was Marsh sacked? Close to what, a week and a half ago now? Or
yeah,
was it
about that, wasn't it? Yeah.
about that? And you still haven't got a manager, and then you're going to Nuno, the most opposite playing styles you can think of. You've got Nuno who plays eight at the back, and Marsh who wants to take on Man City. Just no direction.
But
No
that's another
direction.
thing. We've seen like the likes of Benitez linked. We've seen like even the managers that were linked. We've seen like Gallardo that's been linked. There's been a couple
Yep.
of others like the Ajax for the people that they were linked a week ago were very attacking minded managers. And I even said on the
Yeah.
next Leeds manager video I did, I was like, you can see there's a way that they want to play. They've kind of gone fully against that now, and that's concerning for me. It really is.
Yeah, when you've gone from the managers that you've just mentioned to, Benitez, Nuno, God knows, I'm sure Big Sam's going to get a mention at this point for them. But yeah,
Redknapp did, didn't
um,
he?
oh God, I saw a meme story from Talksport saying that Harry Redknapp said he wouldn't take over them because of um, the Cheltenham Cup. He said he wouldn't want to, something to do with that. But he said he would keep them up. But God, Harry Redknapp might keep Leeds up. Who knows?
I mean, Warnock's
Um,
come back, so who knows?
Warnock, yeah, you never know. Scott, Southampton, last but not least, what a win at the weekend. And we say what a win. We know that Chelsea an absolute poo at the moment, but when you've got a man who I think he's the greatest free kick taker of all time, Beckham, Janino, Rivaldo. They're sexy names, so it's not cool to say Ward Prowse is the best ever because he's not Janino, he's not David Beckham. I think he is the greatest ever. His percentage conversion rate must be a joke. And all types of free kicks. Remember the one when he scored against us from like 40 yards?
Yes, yeah.
Just knuckleballs it from the halfway line. And he can get it over the wall from 18 yards out. Unbelievable. When you've got him, you can pick up wins like that. Is it enough though?
And I think that's the worrying thing, isn't it? Because you speak to some Saints fans, they'll tell you first off the season he wasn't really on the ball, and he started to come more on the
That's true.
ball now in terms of
That's true.
his form. I think it's not just the fact of goal scoring with him; it's also the delivery. His delivery from corners, his delivery from
Yeah.
indirect free kicks. I think you mentioned Beckham. I'm sure that Ward-Prowse is only a couple of goals off compared to free kick goals compared to Beckham
I
now.
think so. I think so.
So, it can't just be one player though, because you worry, I said, didn't I, a little bit in the video ago, I said there's got to be a defining moment that all these teams are good enough to stay up. What happens if Ward-Prowse gets injured?
If he gets injured, that's it. I would come out in public and say, they're done. If Ward-Prowse gets injured, they're done for me. Like they're
But
down.
they've got all the
Million
recipes
percent.
for a really good partnership. They've got a 6'7" striker and a guy that could put a ball on a sixpence. I mean, that we should see some
Yeah.
absolute brilliant things coming from them. I really liked Sulemana when I saw him against Wolves a couple of weeks
Yes.
ago as well.
He was good.
He looks
They've got
like
some
a good
decent.
player.
They've got some good players.
Yeah,
Salisu, Bella
Alcaraz.
Kotchap, of course. Alcaraz, Bella Kotchap, who Wolves wanted. Livramento. They've got some players. But I fear for Leeds. I really do. Scott, we've got to try and pick three. We're gonna
Oh,
put our name on record here, and let's pick three. I've just thrown that on you. You weren't even expecting that, but I'm
I
gonna
mean,
let
this is
you
the
go
part of the
first.
video that everyone who has subscribed at the moment goes, "No, I'm unsubscribing, you idiot."
Fuck these
Um,
guys.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Bournemouth. I don't know if that's just a safe pick because
After they just left Molyneux with 3 points, yeah, Bournemouth.
yeah, well, there's 10,000 Bournemouth fans as well, so like there's less people to hate me. I'm gonna go. I don't know. I'm gonna go.
It's not easy, is it? There's 7, 8 teams.
It's not Leeds. I don't know. I worry for Leeds if they don't get a manager in quickly.
Yeah. One more.
Oh, God. I'm just gonna pick Saints because they're at the bottom at the moment.
I think you've picked the three that I think it's those three as well. A woo for Leeds. When you're conceding 39 goals after 23 games, it's not great. I would go Bournemouth, Leeds, and Southampton. If there was one team who I think would replace those three. So if one of those three don't go down, my fourth would be Forest. I really do believe
Wow.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my out there prediction. I wouldn't write off Forest yet for going down. I really wouldn't.
It's too close to call, though, isn't it? In all honesty.
It is. It is. It could be anyone. The way it's going, it could be Chelsea. Well, I fucking hope so.
I mean, guys, I'm
Um,
sure we've upset a lot of fans after the end of the video predicting 3. But
well, only three. Only three clubs in the end.
if you
Only three.
can forgive us and you have enjoyed the video, please do hit that like button. Please do subscribe. And at least if you do subscribe and you end up staying up, you can just abuse us.
That's true. Follow us on Twitter as well. So Bournemouth, if you do win your next 3 games, you can have a go at us on Twitter. There you are.
Yeah.
Sweet and sour soccer. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video and we'll see you very soon. Take care.
Bye.